Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more title update 2. It's finally time to dive into the Dual Blades update, which has actually been incredible this time around. We've got damage buffs across various attacks, an entirely new combo skip, a massive update for raw Dual Blades for fun, and just a ton of potential for the new max DPS element set too. I'll also be touching on the new Seregios Dual Blades and how we feel about that. But before we get into all of that, the important credit to Josh. He came up with the sets and did the math to back it up for the video today, which brings us to these conclusions. I play the weapon and can discuss what's needed and works with him, but Josh is that long-term veteran who creates these builds ultimately. So full credit to him as always. Let's talk about what's changed for Dual Blades in Title Update 2 at a mechanical level, because there's been some buffs. The most important thing here is the new combo skip. While Demon Boost is active, you can evade into Blade Dance 2 straight into Blade Dance 3, skipping Blade 1 entirely, which, you know, is a solid attack with great damage behind it, but it has one of the longer animations that holds you in place firmly. So commonly in real gameplay, we skip it using Archdemon mode's Demon Flurry 1, then you swap into Demon mode to perform Blade Dance 2, and then 3. So you want to spam Blade Dance 3 as much as possible, and this new option can get you there in a new way. Does this mean you'll completely stop using Demon Flurry 1 into the Blade Dance 2 and then 3? No. It just means that whenever you land a perfect evade, you can go into Blade Dance 2 and 3. It just opens up a slightly smoother punish window, and that's great news. In fact, I imagine most openings are now going to be sneak attack into your 6-fold combo, then you perfect evade the raw to Demon Boost activate, only to instantly Blade Dance 2 and then 3 immediately, which is really nice. Other changes have happened though, like greater control such as increased movement speed during Demon mode, but also more direction control when you enter Demon mode after a dodge. The all-important 6-fold Demon Slash for build engage hits harder now, as does Demon Flurry Rush and Demon Flurry itself. Amazingly, the Screw Slicer, that amazing extra dodge attack you can do after a Demon Boost dodge, its raw, element and ailment scaling are all up. On top of that, they've encouraged our Focus Strike, the Spine Spin, a bit more with better damage. Though I'd love to see some changes to the mechanics of it, where we could control it like turn around so we always land at the head, that kind of thing. But for now, damage is good. There's other changes too, like the rebalancing of element and raw for various attacks, but overall, this is a buff for many aspects of this weapon. And we know that more is coming for Dual Blades in the August patch, which could be very good for us there. For these sets today, we're going to be expecting you to do something important. Naturally, for Dual Blades, you want this skill, Evade Window. It makes your perfect evade timing easier, and since we want that for Demon Boost as much as possible, it adds a lot of comfort. That's important. But the problem here, as you can see, is that evade window decorations are a 2 slot, which is pretty invasive on a build. Look at what we've got in terms of slots here on the left. It's all a bunch of 3 slots and no 2 slots at all. But you don't have to lose evade window thanks to eating food before a hunt. If we take a look at some of my favourite meals for this purpose, we have stamina meal and evade meal. That is because you have the shrimp, the mud, and then turbid, which provide you tumbler meal. Tumbler meal, as it states, extends the invulnerability period when evading. This is essentially a food buff version of evade window. You have the low version and the high version as well. The low version equates to 2 evade window, where the high version equates to 3. So while our sets today have some evade window, even eating just the low version here would give you that nice comfort to make it easier to actually perfect evade. Then we can commit all of our decoration slots to other bonuses like stamina. So we'll be expecting you to eat for evade window using tumbler meal, but you might be thinking, well, feasts give me more attack and better defenses than regular eating. Well, thanks to the hub, we can use the new canteen, which allows you to specific feast eat. And the one that I'm recommending is, of course, the Azus meal, because as you can see, it comes with tumbler meal high as well. So there's no downside there either. Moving on, let's now talk about the new equipment. We have the weapon, but first, the armor set. The Seregios armor set is very exciting for raw Dual Blades. This is because you're going to get a ton of adrenaline rush from it, right? Which provides up to 30 raw at level 5. After landing a perfectly timed evade, which is what we're doing all the time on Dual Blades. The Seregios set bonus is Razor's Edge 1 and 2, basically extending the duration, so instead of 30 seconds, 45, or with Razor's Edge 2, we can go all the way up to a minute. This will also give you additional raw, 5% of the weapon's base raw. So it's pretty phenomenal for that purpose, and synergizes super well with Dual Blades. The problem is it's all about raw, which is not really the optimal way to play Dual Blades, but we will be highlighting and talking about it. Next, you might be wondering about the Seregios Dual Blades, which are pretty exciting. 210 base raw, 25% affinity on them. No element, which is a huge problem, but they are just raw Dual Blades. Honestly, better white sharpness than some other Seregios weapons, and then the slots are 3-2-1, but it comes with Bladescale honing. If you evade a monster's attack, it triggers a special sharpness. Let's look at what that actually is. So obviously that works great with dual blades, with perfect evading, and that's how it's triggering. Combine that with a Seregios set as we just discussed, and that's amazing. But the special sharpness itself, as you can see, it changes the visuals on your sharpness bar. This protects your sharpness for a certain amount of attacks. With dual blades, that's 6 attacks before it runs out, which is not a lot. Interestingly though, it causes special sharpness no matter what sharpness you run before you actually triggered it, so you don't have to be on white. The most important part of this is that this special sharpness is a damage modifier. Like how white sharpness increases raw damage by 32%, this special sharpness is actually stronger than purple sharpness, which we don't even have yet. It provides a 40% increase to your raw damage, compared even to purple's crazy 39%. So there's a lot of potential there with that in mind, if you can keep that special sharpness going, say for a high enough average that it matters. This is obviously weighed against the immense value of artian weapons. Their reinforcements, the decoration slots, the great sharpness. Overall, compared to white sharpness, it's an 8% damage increase. The problem is the buff is too short-lived to maintain enough for it to really compete. We tested it with a variety of weapons, and obviously dual blades in specific. And even then, it's so demanding because you're burning through that sharpness too quickly. It really doesn't compete with Artian unless you were to have over 75% uptime on all of your attacks with special sharpness. And then you have the bomb on top that is no element benefit on top of that, which really matters for dual blades. So it's a really cool concept. It's going to be great for raw sets as we'll discuss. It's just very demanding. We'll begin with that raw concept then, since it's such a big thing in Title Update 2. What should you use if you want to run a raw set? Well, it's going to be an Artian weapon. And obviously it's going to be all attack boost with that in mind, with 1 sharpness boost. Though you know, with dual blades and its sharpness being blasted, 2 isn't the end of the world. But what's important here is that on the craft, it actually has element, not status or something else. You still want to match the element the monster or target's weak to, because it's going to give you a lot of value. For this weapon's decorations then, you're going to want critical boost for level 3 of that, the element attack that's tied to the weapon you're using, so fire in this fire weapon's case, and then you want razor sharp to help maintain your sharpness as much as possible. The backup 2 levels you can get could be 2 levels of handicraft, but if you really want to maximize your damage, you go for critical element instead on at least one of those. Whichever way you do it is fine. Let's now talk about the set that you're going to use for raw dual blades if that's what you want to do. As you can see, we have 4 pieces of Seregios set, all in beta, for the helm, gloves, waist, and boots, and then we have the Zoshir chest in beta as that final slot. Talisman of choice is the Exploiter Talisman for 2 levels of Weakness Exploit. We then use these decorations to achieve this skill list. Full Adrenaline Rush, Weakness Exploit, and Constitution, full Agitator. We have 1 Evade window, 1 Marathon Runner. Don't forget that you're going to eat for Evade window using the Tumbler Food skill. This set has 4 pieces of the Seregios set and scale layering because of that. So as I just said, the Seregios set is going to extend the duration of your Adrenaline Rush. So when you perfect evade, you do a second one and then you get Razor's Edge going. This will also further increase your raw damage by 5% of the base raw that's on your weapon. And thanks to scale layering, we're also going to have even better stamina protection when we're low health. So this is the best way we can push raw in Title Update 2 if you're really wanting to avoid element. Or maybe you just want to try dual blades. This would be a low invasive way to do that. You get to try the new fun of the Seregios piece bonuses. On top of that, you could just slot in the Seregios dual blades like I've got here, if you don't want to craft an Artian and deal with the RNG of that. It's not as good as a proper meta Artian setup, but it'll work against every monster and could be an easy way for you to try dual blades if you haven't. Either way, let's look at the math based on the ideal Artian weapon for raw. We have 225 base raw, and we're getting 5% on top of that from the Seregios 4 piece, bringing us to 236.25. We have Adrenaline 5 and then Agitator 5 with an assumed 65% uptime, bringing us to 279.25. Then we have White Sharpness, bringing us to 368.61. And then for the affinity, we have 42% total from Weakness Exploit, the base Artian, and then 5 Agitator, again with assumed 65% uptime. With Crit Boost 3, that's a 34% damage increase on the crits, so that averages out to a 15.3% damage increase with the 42% affinity. So we multiply that by the number we had, and that brings us to 425 effective raw, which is very respectable for dual blades. But to get a bit more stereotypical and more meta for you, we have the all element set. Yes, you do have drag and convert, and we will at least reference that in a moment. But the value and benefits of running this all element set, even with a dragon setup, is ultimately a lot more raw, which goes a long way in the current context of the game. Either way, let's first discuss the weapon that we're using for this, which is the same as before. It's Artian Dual Blades with the element that the monster you're fighting is weak to. So fire in this case for lagiacrus. For the reinforcements then, it's all attack boost and then one sharpness boost, though a second one isn't the end of the world because it really does help Dual Blades. But I do want to say that with Title Update 2 pushing element a bit more, with lagiacrus and Seregios having alright element hit zones, it's not as big of a gap anymore between raw and element in the craft for Dual Blades here. So if you had 4 element boost instead of 4 attack boost on the reinforcement, that'd be fine. In fact, 3 attack boost and 1 element, that'd be fine too. It's a lot closer now. So that means it's easier to get a setup that you're actually going to be happy with, and I think that's good news. When it comes to the offensive decorations for this then, again, it's critical boost 3, the correct element attack for the element weapon you're using, full razor sharp, and then for max DPS, 1 level crit element, 1 level handicraft. However you get it on the different decorations. Right, let's take a look at the set then. For the all element set, we have 2 pieces of gore, but the gore helmet is in beta while the waist is in alpha. Make sure you pay attention to that. We have the Zoshia chest in beta, the Seregios gloves in beta, and the Mizu boots in beta as well. This time we have the Challenger charm for 2 levels of agitator, and with this decoration list, we achieve this skill list. Full weakness exploit, 4 agitator, 3 constitution, 3 antivirus, 2 adrenaline rush, 2 burst, the 1 evade window, and the 1 coalescence. Again, don't forget that we're eating for the tumbler meal to give us more evade window. What's nice about this set is that you're not worried about element absorption or anything like that. You're just going ham on the target as soon as possible with high levels of potent skills. There's a lot less stars aligning needed here, like we see with some element sets. Let's take a look at the math to see what we mean by that. So firstly, we have the raw, we have the base raw of 225. We get these increases from adrenaline 2, burst 2, and agitator 4 with an assumed 65% uptime, bringing us to 260. We multiply that by our white sharpness, bringing us to 343.2. We have 67% reliable affinity, thanks to weakness exploit, antivirus, 4 agitator with that 65% assumed uptime, and the base affinity of the Artian. Again, we got 3 crit boosts, that's a 34% damage increase on the crits. But with the 67% affinity, it's more like 22.78. We multiply that by the number we just had, bringing us to 421.3 effective raw. That's only 4 raw behind the actual raw set, by the way. Then we actually have the enhancement to the element. So looking at the element math, we have 270 base element. We increase that by 20% thanks to Ellie Attack 3, bringing us to 324. We get 60 from Burst 2 and Ellie Attack 3, bringing us to 444. If we debloat that, it's actually 44.4 as its true element, and we can multiply that by a white sharpness, which is a 15% increase, meaning we have 51 effective element, on top of the 1 coalescence that's going to be going on whenever it does, for an even bigger burst. So you're barely behind on the raw here, but you're getting this immense value out of the element increase. Obviously the issue with this is that you have to craft 5 perfect dual blades for element, but that's what you signed up for when you decided to go on dual blades. It's an element weapon most of the time. We're at Title Update 2 now, so it's time to get artian crafting. But as I said, it's not so hard anymore. You'd be fine with 3 attack boost, 1 element boost, and 1 sharpness boost, or some other combination of them. And if you're not absolute world record speedrunning, you're fine either way. But to end this video off, we need to talk about the Dragon Convert set, because stereotypically in element setups, we have a setup for 4 elements and then a different setup for a dragon specifically thanks to the skill Convert Element. Convert Element just gives you this massive boost of dragon in a very straightforward way. Plus, occasionally you get these big bursts of dragon damage for like 310, which is amazing for dual blades. The problem with Convert Element is that it gets in the way of a lot of other pieces, so it just doesn't fit in a good way. The all element set technically has 14 less true element for dragon, and then obviously none of those big dragon pops. But in exchange, the all element set has 33 more effective raw, which is a massive difference. And we can't pretend that Convert Element triggers and then is active the whole time. It triggers when you get hit by an element, and then it has a cooldown before it can activate again. So it's certainly not up all the time. If it had no cooldown or had a really high uptime, it'd actually be a discussion. but we feel the all element set with its much higher raw is just a lot better. You're getting so much value from the full skills of agitator, burst, and adrenaline rush, but at very least, convert element would be good if you ended the fight within the first few minutes of the hunt. Like you get the convert element proc, and then you end the fight before it drops, or not long after. So if your hunts last 3 minutes or less on average, then yeah, convert element would be technically a lot more valuable. But for most of us, it's a bit unrealistic. And by the way, the two monsters we're killing the most right now, they're not vulnerable to dragon. But if you really want the set for any reason, it's on screen now. These are the decorations that I use to achieve this skill list. Pause if you need to. But there you have it. That's our updated Title Update 2 Dual Blades. Overall, I think it's been very good. DPS buffs, that new flow with the evasive gameplay option into Blade Dance 2 and 3, and then you got big relevant changes for the stronger sets. Having said that, it does kind of suck that the Seregios Dual Blades burn through their sharpness protection a bit too quick right now. Maybe they'll rebalance it, but I like what they brought to the table. It's an easy way for someone to try Dual Blades with just a raw set that will just immediately work against every monster. And then they also don't have to deal with like optimal artian crafting. So it might not be as good, but there's a lot of value to that. Anyway, I hope this explained everything you needed to know, or at least encourage you to jump in with Dual Blades. I've definitely got a good feeling about Title Update 3 for Dual Blades though, whether that's Element, where hopefully it gets better. But again, sooner than that, we know Dual Blades changes are coming again in the August patch. So it's looking good. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.